Hell's Kitchen could be so intense that it could sometimes bring out the worst of its contestants. But here are some times when chefs were completely out of line. And this one right here had a thing for making women cry.
I just can't wait to make her cry.
That evil laugh you just heard belongs to a bully and misogynist douchebag who was featured in the 16th season of Hell's Kitchen. I'm of course talking about Johnny McDevitt, who surprisingly survived until the 8th episode. To say the very least, Johnny was insufferable to watch, and every time he opened his mouth, I just felt like stuffing it with Tide Pods. Remember how during the signature dish challenge, he made a snarky comment about Kimberly Ann Ryan's dish, which was nearly perfect? Well, if you don't, let me refresh your memory by showing you this.
Taught her to cook like that. Really annoying when like cute little girls cook really well.
You know what, Johnny? That's exactly why you finished in 12th place. On the other hand, Kimberly not only won the season, but also landed the head chef position at Yardbird's Southern Table and Bar at the Venetian in Las Vegas. But you know what? Johnny didn't give a damn about what people thought, not even Chef Ramsay. According to a Reddit user, he's apparently aware of how millions of viewers despise him. One of the comments even claimed that Johnny admitted to being a bully on TV. Well, that's only because he had a questionable temperament. And this became truly evident in the 3rd episode when Jessica Boyton couldn't stop bragging about the red team's victory. So what exactly did Johnny do?
Nobody likes you.
That's not true.
Yup, this insensitive scumbag made her cry. You see, Johnny couldn't handle defeat, so when Jessica couldn't stop boasting about the red team's victory, he decided to destroy her spirits by saying this.
Nobody's talking to you. I don't know why you even look at me. Like, just stop talking to me for the rest of the season.
That was so mean. How is the blue team's failure Jessica's fault? Nobody deserves to be treated like this. Jessica was incredibly broken.
I don't know if they're intimidated or they really don't like me now.
But guess what? She wasn't his only target. In the next episode, Johnny stooped down even further when he made a nasty comment about making people cry.
All right, rat face.
I have a rat face?
Go chew on some cheese, rat.
This time, he wanted to make Kimberly Roth cry, but guess what? She wasn't as weak as Jessica, and she could easily see through Johnny's bullying. She claimed that she was a wolf and that she would bite back, and what do you know? That's exactly what she did.
Why don't you start acting like a gentleman and be respectful to people and stop trying to rip on people because you feel about yourself?
Wow, wasn't that a treat to watch? But Johnny continued to be an ass.
Go back in your rat's nest, Splinter.
Well, you can't expect much from him, right? But guess what, Johnny boy? Kimberly Roth ranked in 5th place. Yep, she stayed way longer than you in the competition. Well, that's exactly what the argument was all about. Speaking of which, the day this boorish jerk left the competition, it was quite the show. Usually while prepping, chefs give suggestions to each other in order to have a better service, but Johnny was a different story. What he did in the 8th episode of this season led to one of the most disastrous dinner services on Hell's Kitchen I've ever seen. So what happened is that Shayna Hayden suggested that Johnny sear off the sea bass before the service began. The reason why was because sea bass takes a lot of time to cook, but what did Johnny do? Well, he ignored it.
Sea bass, you sure?
We don't rest any of our fish over here.
Ultimately, the sea bass turned out to be raw, and Chef Ramsay was left wondering why nobody seared it.
I didn't think that was the way to do it.
We do it in the other car.
The worst part was when Johnny threw the blue team under the bus, despite always yapping about how responsible he was.
And then because I said that's not how we do it, she just let me go down? You, Shayna.
So Johnny's elimination was a long time coming, but before he got going, he had to make a scene.
I want to rip out the beautiful hair in my head.
As Danielle Ballou said, there's no great chef without a great team, and clearly Johnny had neither. After all these years, how do you think Johnny is doing now? According to a Reddit user, Johnny deeply regrets his behavior on the show. In an interview with My Take on TV, when Johnny was asked what the fans would talk about when season 16 aired, he said, "I'm excited and terrified at the same time for the show to come out because during our time, I said tons of stuff and I can't remember half of the things that came out of my mouth. I know that I say things all the time that I regret and people are shocked and awed by it, so I'm assuming that somewhere along the line, they'll have me being at my finest." According to another Reddit user, Johnny apparently owns a cookie company called Cookie Man Co. in Philadelphia. And well, I really hope he settled down for good. But this next contestant didn't show 1 ounce of empathy when one of his team members had an allergic reaction. However, there was something more about him that made viewers root for his downfall. Hell's Kitchen has seen more than one bully during its time on air, and season 18 had its very own Scott Lee Innes. The way he bullied Trev McGrath was absolutely disgusting. But was Trev any better? Hell no. However, did that mean Trev deserved to be treated badly? No. Scott Lee was so notorious that people didn't have an ounce of love for him. Well, that's only because Scott Lee ticked everyone off. On day 2, when Scott Lee tried to showcase his sous chef skills by taking the lead, he ended up micromanaging Mia Castro's work.
Let's put some paper underneath. Whenever you're doing fried food, you want to have something underneath.
But before you start assuming that his micromanaging helped the team, take a look at what happened.
You're on fire. When you take that out to Dre, you don't need that.
I told him that, chef.
As Babe Ruth famously said, you may have the greatest bunch of individual stars in the world, but if they don't play together, the club won't be worth a dime. There's always gonna be winners and losers in challenges, and it doesn't matter if you did well and others didn't. Yeah, it is definitely frustrating, but it doesn't mean you should hold a grudge. But what exactly does this have to do with Scott Lee? Well, this man never failed to surprise me. When the red team lost the last man standing challenge, Scott Lee was irritated with Trev since he failed to plate his dish. After hearing the blue team's reward, Scott Lee became so pissed that he bitterly told the blue team to crash.
Men, any tips for the girls before they go?
Crash.
Now, since Scott Lee held the biggest grudge against Trev, he didn't shy away from putting the blame on him constantly. The most infuriating part was when Trev had an allergic reaction, but Scott Lee was completely unbothered.
He's acting like he's about to die. My hands, they're bleeding.
He went to the extent of calling Trev a baby girl.
You alright, baby girl?
Funny.
Does he not know how deadly an allergic reaction can be? It could potentially kill someone. But who's gonna explain that to Scott Lee here? He was so renowned for his cold nature that he even became a meme. Have you seen this before? I came across a tweet of his in 2018 where he posted about the airing of his season, and boy, the hate that he got in this thread was unbelievable. I mean, just take a look at the comments. Remember when the red team lost the Chinese cuisine challenge? Well, Scott Lee did nothing to help his teammates during the punishment because he wanted to go to Vegas. Who was acting like a baby now, huh? And later, he even used the eggs, which were supposed to be for the cookies, as snacks. Scott Lee only cared about himself.
Scott Lee doesn't care about anybody but himself.
And his hatred towards Trev lingered way after his elimination as well.
He is the weakest link. Trevor, baby girl, good luck.
Come on, snap out of it already, Scott. A Reddit user rightly said, Scott Lee always talks like he has a mouthful of pudding and he dares to try to assert dominance. However, this next contestant wasn't only remembered for her mean persona, but also for ripping her shirt off like the Hulk and sabotaging her teammates. Say hello to SARA HOROWITZ from Season 2. SARA wasn't just mean on Hell's Kitchen. According to a Reddit user, SARA was a bully in school, and I wouldn't be surprised if this user was one of her victims. And no, I'm not just making crazy assumptions here. This user also wrote about how much trauma SARA had caused her and how she made her look bad just to make herself look good. Sound familiar? Well, that's exactly what SARA was like on the show. And the first time she ever showed her true colors was when Heather West suffered from a serious burn. On the third day, when Heather volunteered to sit out of the challenge since she didn't want to hinder the red team, SARA was unsympathetic. She was even annoyed with Heather's tips and her leadership. Which makes me wonder, was there anything about Heather that SARA wasn't annoyed about? As Elizabeth Briggs said, chefs don't make mistakes, they make new dishes. But the only thing SARA was doing was make a fool out of herself. Do you recall the time that she sabotaged Virginia Dahlbeck? Honestly, I think she sabotaged Rachel Brown as well. But let me take you down memory lane real quick. SARA never really liked Rachel and always wanted her out, but Rachel wasn't the only target. On the fourth day during the dinner service, SARA didn't communicate with Rachel. And well, we all know how important communication is. I just don't know why, but I feel SARA did this intentionally.
Ready, yes?
Yeah, I was waiting for her call, Steph.
What followed was SARA's dirtiest move. When Virginia asked SARA if she was ready with the turbot, SARA said she was. So naturally, Virginia walked with her dish, and it was time for SARA to play dirty.
I haven't fired it yet.
No, she said that she's ready.
No, she didn't even start cooking it.
If you ask me, that's really cunning. I mean, just look at how shamelessly she was laughing while Chef Ramsay berated Virginia.
You want to start lying to me?
I'm not lying to you, Chef.
But wait, it looks like I stumbled across a SARA supporter. This Reddit user claimed that SARA wasn't actually smiling, but it was the editor who showed it in such a way that made SARA look evil. This user also explained how the editors usually trick the audience in almost every other elimination. Well, yeah, there have been times when the show was made to look more dramatic than it really was. But when it comes to SARA, I think she was a real menace on the show. And she continued to be so in real life as well. Let me take you back in time to 2014 when SARA was working as the tour chef for Justin Bieber. Now, that seems to be the only good thing about what I'm about to say. Because, well, you'll never guess what she did. SARA was supposedly arrested for beating her boyfriend up, and you know what? That totally sounds like SARA. According to ABC's Kiva report, SARA emptied a cooler filled with food all over the inside of her boyfriend's car, then punched and kicked the poor guy. As a result, her boyfriend suffered scrapes and his glasses were broken. She was later arrested on the 10th of April in 2013 for assault/family violence and charged the next day with a misdemeanor. I guess some people just never change, huh? But this next contestant didn't just target one person. She was disrespectful to everyone. From stirring up problems for her teammates to twisting words that caused huge arguments, this contestant only had one passion: cigarettes. I think Tiffany Johnson instantly became the villain of the show in season 10. Tiffany's personality was so unreal that a few viewers believed that she was planted on the show to boost viewership. Well, I think this user did have a point. Why exactly would Chef Ramsay keep Tiffany for so long when she didn't care, argued in the middle of service, and had rage-filled fits? Like, remember how she acted like a maniac after her entire team got kicked out on the second day of service?
Get that shit, you fucking idiot! What is wrong with you?
I truly think that it was from this day onwards that Tiffany started to hate Barbie Marshall. Thanks to these two contestants, the red team was always full of drama and things became extremely chaotic. Especially when you consider what happened on the 5th day. Tiffany wreaked havoc and brought the red team against each other. If you don't remember how it all started, let me refresh your memory. After the blue team lost the Mexican cuisine challenge, later that night, Royce Wagner complained about Kimmy using flour tortillas and how Mexicans don't use them. But it's all about creation, remember? If the result brings positive reviews, then why not? But Royce had a hard time accepting this.
Especially when you're going into a taco challenge that's supposed to be somewhat traditional, you don't use flour tortillas.
Now, while Royce was going on about Kimmy's dish, Tiffany was in the back listening to everything. Though she claimed to want a no-bitching policy, she went and said whatever Royce said to Kimmy and Robin. But here's the twist. Tiffany didn't say it was Royce who said it.
The whole like, oh, she's from the South and why was she using flour tortillas type of shit.
Such a scheming little bitch, right? There's a kitchen code that kinda goes something like, don't bring your personal drama into work with you, but Tiffany was all about the drama. She set things on fire. And the next day, the red team had a meltdown, but Tiffany took no responsibility for the drama she had caused. The worst part was that all of this happened right before the service.
I was not down there for any—
All right, someone's lying then.
You heard somebody say something and now you're coming at us.
How could chefs cook in their right minds under so much stress? It sounds damn near impossible. But in an interview with Reality Wanted, Tiffany Johnson spoke about the drama and said it was fun. I don't think anyone in the red team found this stuff amusing. However, this next contestant definitely had a good palate and presented some great dishes, but in terms of personality, she was toxic, rude, condescending, and presumptuous. I'm referring to Amber Lancaster from season 19. The first time she pissed me and several other viewers off was when she got the red team to nominate Nikki Hanna for being a novice chef.
You haven't run a brigade that big. I don't know what your skill set would be like as a leader.
How could you pick her for that reason? And because of the way she treated Nikki, Amber was subjected to cyberbullying. However, when she got the black jacket instead of Nikki, Amber received a lot of hate online. But I truly think that time heals wounds. Apparently, Amber helped Nikki bag her first proper cooking job and literally took her under her wing. Was she making up for all the bad blood between them? Well, I guess so, because these two chefs aren't just friends now, but the best of friends.
Amber offered me a job, and the rest is history.
Seeing how they got close made everyone happy, but there were also those who were really skeptical. You see, impressions are hard to make and even harder to break. And Amber never really made a good impression on the show. When she was assigned to the blue team on the 4th day, she wasn't happy about it. Technically, nobody likes change, but chefs try to adapt, and Amber did exactly that. However, she soon made everyone go nuts. Here's what happened. After Amber moved all of her things to the blue kitchen and asked if she could move a few things around, Declan Horgan said no. That was only because everything was set to go. Hearing this, Amber got emotional, but the blue team tried to calm her down. They needed to make sure that Amber felt comfortable so they could work as a team. However, Amber offended everyone by saying this.
It's a lot, just to switch like that?
I'm not into losing.
As the competition progressed, Amber became the most disliked person of that season. In fact, viewers hated her more than Mark Quinones. In this Reddit post, the OP started with one thing, then completely blew it out of proportion. But this user's comment really caught my attention. The post described Amber as a rude and hostile contestant who consistently played the victim. And that's exactly what made her one of the most disliked chefs on the show. But this next contestant wasn't only disrespectful towards her teammates, but also towards Chef Ramsay. She's one of the few contestants from season 12 who'd make you think, how did she even get selected? And if you asked me to name a contestant who had no passion, performed poorly, always argued with her teammates, and maybe even threatened them, then I'd name Nicole RUTZ. Several viewers considered Nicole as a wasted spot on Hell's Kitchen. It could have definitely been put in better hands. Getting a chance to compete on Hell's Kitchen is no joke. It means getting a chance to work with Chef Ramsay and many other chefs from different backgrounds. However, I don't think Nicole wanted to be a great chef. Right from day one, she showed that she wasn't a team player. Not only did she give up during the service, but she also got into a heated argument with Sandra Flores.
I'm done. Scout.
And I told you, 40 seconds. No, don't say that one time.
The next day, there was no change in Nicole's attitude. During prep, she got into an argument with her teammate yet again.
Best believe it will be cooked, and I can say it to your face.
No, you said whatever you said down there.
And before you even make sense of that one, another argument broke out in the dorms when the contestants were picking out nominees for the night.
When you come to me, come correct, please.
Listen,
can we at least be civilized for a second?
By talking to me like that?
Well, could you really blame the teammates though? I would have voted for her too. But surprisingly, Nicole wasn't nominated, and yet this happened.
The person leaving Hell's Kitchen is Nicole.
Well, I can understand that she was upset with Chef Ramsay's decision to pick her, but what Nicole did next was uncalled for.
Good night, asshole. I'm not gonna cry like a little bitch.
That's not how you should treat Ramsay. But I guess Nicole was just being herself with absolutely no filter. Oh, but wait, she had one more thing to say.
What he thinks and what he says, he can kiss my big fat ass.
Well, what I can say is that this is a crazy way to exit Hell's Kitchen. But who knows, there may be more contestants who plan to come back and take revenge on Chef Ramsay in the future.